Rio Tinto is the stock of the day. Rio and Glencore confirming they are in merger talks, again, in a deal which would create the world's largest mining company with a combined market value of more than $300 billion. Now, Rio has indicated talks include the possibility of an all-share merger with the Anglo-Swiss commodity trading and mining company. Rio saying there can be no certainty that an offer will be made, with a deadline for any announcement due by 5 p.m. London time on February 5th. That's under UK takeover rules. And the two mining giants already holding merger talks over a year ago, which subsequently collapsed. And US listed shares of Glencore were up some 6% after the company confirmed those talks, while Rio's US listed shares were down. And as you can see what's happened in today's trade off the back of that news, down more than 5% locally for Rio. So, Adam, let's start with you. Your thoughts, whether they're actually going to get across the line this time. And of course, that, if the merger were to occur, it would create one of the world's biggest copper business at a time when that metal is really soaring.
And I think that's the key, Andrew. It is about that copper side of things. I think that really, you're looking at a massive business, with Rio's market cap around about US of around about 145 billion. And then Glencore's market cap around 67 billion. So hence why Rio's off today and Glencore's higher on the back of this. And it is really about the copper side of things, because Rio as well as Glencore had positioned themselves a decade ago or even longer on the iron ore trade for the industrialization of China. Potentially that trade has now started to subside. And then obviously, we do know that China's looking elsewhere for their iron ore and things like that. So they have to move into the future, I suspect, and certainly something like a copper is something that they would definitely want to move forward in. We've seen BHP going up on the back of that copper exposure also. So I think that if they're revisiting this tie-up, I think that it would be a way, and I think the expectation is that Rio would buy Glencore by way of court-sanctioned scheme of arrangement from the UK side of things. But it does shift the way that the mine executives are starting to think, because potentially they're saying now either you got to go big or go home, but they're worried about overpaying, and Rio is a classic example of overpaying for assets at the top end of a cycle. And so I think that they're looking for something that is going to bring this thing together. The deal making certainly has rekindled. We know we've seen some top end changes inside Rio, and this is now starting to sort of see how they're wanting to play this going forward. But certainly they're very much, their businesses are anchored to that iron ore and coal. But now that copper story, I think, is really starting to shine a light on how these businesses are going to work. So, look, I think you hold Rio. This is obviously, that is the overall game, is that if they do merge this thing together, it will create the largest mining company. BHP certainly is, by market cap, the largest mining company in Australia, but also in the world. So this one is going to put a direct competition, and I think that alone, I'd put a hold on Rio for that.
Jumbe.
Yeah, look, I think I'll put a hold on Rio as well. The reason it's down, look, it does make an investor a bit worried that, is this the top of the market? We had BHP wanting to buy Anglo American, and then we got Rio wants to do this. And both of them have had go at those targets a number of times already. So it certainly seems like the mining companies, they are trying to capitalize on the current cash flow, high commodity prices, and move into, these areas. But it certainly look like, copper we love. And I do think that this is the right place to go, because it's got that structural support to that commodity. So, for me, if the Rio falls any further, I think it's a good buying opportunity. Rio doesn't only, so Rio also give exposure to aluminium as well. As we know that aluminium sort of is a copper alternative, copper derivative. When copper price goes higher, there is a level of a certain product gets converted into aluminium because the gap, so their price tend to be linked. So, Rio gives good exposure to all of that. And I think there is, some investor asking whether do you sell some Rio, put it back into BHP, given this outperformed 20% in the last quarter and 6% just in the last last month alone. But I do think that Rio is in a better position compared to BHP, and this doesn't preclude the BHP from trying to buy other businesses either. So I think both of them will be doing the same in the next 12 months, and many miners will be doing the same. So I stick to Rio Tinto. If it falls any further, I'm a buyer.
That is a double hold then for our stock of the day, Rio Tinto.